Alright, hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Got a new Planeswalker review. I have Lukka Bound to Ruin. First off, thanks to Oktagon for letting me try out this walker for you guys to see what I think of him and show you some in-game footage and compare him to other red-green walkers. So yeah, in case you didn't know, Lukka Bound to Ruin is a brand new red-green walker to the one card set here. I found that his abilities focus mainly on getting creatures into your hand on the battlefield, buffing them up, and swinging for quick wins. His third ability is a little bit of control, but not a crazy amount. But I would say his deck types should be mainly focused on getting big creatures on the battlefield and winning fast with them. So let's get into the walkers that we will compare him to. So I'm not huge into red green. These are the only two walkers that I will compare him to. I do have original Arlen, but I just thought for simplicity's sake, let's keep it to these three walkers because I think that these three are the ones that get used the most, and I never picked up Arlen 2. I know that she's pretty good, but focused mainly on wolves and werewolves, so those will be rotating out in about 4 or 5 months anyway, so I thought that we would stick with the walkers that have a little bit more utility beyond the block that they're currently in standard. So let's get into it. Starting with hit points as always, and what's up with Oktagon's new trend of giving us all these low hit point walkers as of late. I don't know why they want to do that because I don't feel like anyone's abilities are making up that much for the low hit points, especially with Lukka Bound to Ruin. I wish he did have some more hit points. I tend to end up, unless I have some sort of life gain, I tend to end up being in like the 50-ish range of hit points after every battle, which is kind of annoying because if I'm playing the same deck with Domri or Samut, I would end up with like in the 90 hit point range, which is fine. I would go back into another Training Grounds battle with that much HP, but with like 50 HP, that's really cutting it close. So yeah, I hope that Oktagon starts giving us higher hit point walkers again and soon. Mana gains. Okay, so I actually really like his mana gains. I'd say that's one of his best attributes by far. He gets +5 to red and +5 to green, so that's 8 mana on an on-color match of red and green. He only has one negative, which is -2 blue, which is not going to affect you that much. You'll, of course, end up with matches of black and white only, but they're not as punitive as with, say, Samut the Tested, which is my least favorite. Normally, I'm really into having large mana gains at the detriment of off-color matches, but -1 on everything else is just a little too restrictive, and it ends up slowing you down a lot in reality. So that's part of the reason I don't use Samut the Tested very often anymore, but we'll get into other reasons why, probably in the next screen. And then, yeah, of course, Domri Chaos Bringer, +4 to red, +4 to green. Pretty even, a little bit favorable on color matches. You know, I'm a big fan of that. So, yeah, he's got a good mana spread. No problem with that. Deck limits. Okay, so none of these walkers have room for tons of supports. I guess you don't need them that much, but right now with gem conversion in green not being all that great, 8 spells, I would typically load up a few more green conversion spells in a green-red walker than what is currently afforded to us in standard. And then, of course, Legacy is a free for all. You can do whatever you want in Legacy, it's no problem. But for us in Standard, we're kind of more limited to what is on hand for us. So that makes slot supports a lot more valuable to us in the current meta because there are a lot of really good Vanguards right now, a lot of really good supports that will help us get our creatures and stuff on the board. So 5 supports is just on the cusp of not being okay. But yeah, I don't mind his deck limits at all. 5 supports is just enough, as I said. And then with Domri, I don't use him that much in standard. I have one deck for one of the all B1 green node is kind of what I end up using him for right now. Great legacy walker, but yeah, 4 supports and having not great green conversion right now kind of puts both Domri and Samut in the shelf for later conversation. And then Samut the Tested having 10 creatures, 4 spells, 4 supports. This is back in the days of when Hibernum ran the show and was really particular about limiting deck slots because I don't know, I think it was their way of trying to balance walkers. In her day, Samut the Tested could be really strong, but her abilities all focused around having creatures on the board and using those creatures to do things for you instead of spells and support. So the way that the game has evolved since, I don't think that's a very good way of building walkers for us to play with. So that is another reason why I never used Samut the Tested in standard, other than when we had quote unquote Remit available to us. So they nerfed Rem Colorless, and now she's back to Legacy Obscurity. Loyalty ability 1. So here we go. Lukka's loyalty ability 1 is create an enhancing link token. At the beginning of your turn, if you have a creature card in your hand that can gain mana, you may pay 3 life. Again, with the life loss. With a walker that already has low life, that kind of sucks. But if you do, the first creature card in your hand that can gain mana gains X mana, and X is equal to 3 plus this card's level. So I noticed it says you may pay 3 life. I don't know if that means you lose life or you take the damage. I don't think it counts as either, really. So that life you pay, basically, you don't get back at the end of your matches. So that's really annoying. Usually in this game, there's a bug happening where when you lose life, you just gain it all back when you end your match, which is different than taking damage, which you don't get back at the end of your match. Anyway, when the support's gem is matched, the first creature in your hand gets +2/+2, which is alright. And then the first creature card in your hand that can gain mana gains 5 mana. So this will help you get a lot of creatures onto the board. I think this is his most useful ability by far. Because, yeah, it's just feeding creatures in your hand mana every turn for a relatively small fee of 3 HP per turn. And it's a pretty decently costed ability. It only costs 7, which is pretty nice. So that's why, for me, it gets the blue star. Domri Chaosbringer is probably the least useful one. Sometimes you'll draw a card that will make a difference for you, but so it's draw a card and the first 2 creatures in your hand gain Riot. And Riot just means that when you cast this creature that has Riot, you can either choose to buff it with +1/+1 or give it haste. And that haste can be very useful, but it's really dependent on what's in your hand, and then drawing 1 card for the cost of 9, it just does too little for that much loyalty. And then Samut the Tested. Target creature you control gets +2/+2 and double strike. I don't know why it says double strike twice, until the end of your turn. So this tends to be one of the main reasons that people use Samut to this day, having the ability to give double strike to one of your creatures at will, even if for end of turn, can be pretty powerful. The cost is 9, so it's a little bit harder to spam than some other first abilities. But if you build for it, you can have that happening for you pretty frequently. So there you go. Loyalty ability 1. Loyalty ability 2. If you may, for Lukka, you may have your first creature get +6/+6 and gain trample and toxic 2. If you don't, create 2 Phyrexian Beast tokens. And the Phyrexian Beast token is as follows. It's a green creature token with Berserker and Toxic. So I copy pasted these from the wiki, so I think that's why it has double with some of these words here. But basically, yeah, it's got Berserker and Toxic 1. At least the ability gives the creature trample and toxic 2, so it does upgrade it. So I found for this ability, I was using Lukka to master cards, and I found that this ability is pretty good at getting cheap weenie creatures a lot stronger, because especially when battling in Fateful Showdown, you can really use this ability to speed up battles, because even a little 1/1 or 2/2 creature at 8/8 with trample, toxic, in Berserker, you can do a pretty good amount of damage. Oh, so they miss that the creature gets Berserker on the wiki, but yeah, just remember you get +6/+6 Berserker, trample, and toxic too. So this can be a pretty okay ability in a pinch, but sometimes you don't want the first creature on the battlefield to have Berserker and blow itself up. So it's a little bit kind of at the mercy of what you're doing and what you have on the board. So it's an okay ability. It's not the best, but it's also not the worst. And then, so we could move to Domri. And I would say this is the main reason people use Domri, even in coalition events to this day. Fetch the first 2 creatures from your library, they gain 8 mana, then they gain trample. So it's an easy way to get creatures down on the board, especially for objectives, because this is one of the things that is missing from Lukka. He's really focused around creatures, but he has no creature fetch available to him without cards. So I wish that either in his first or third ability gave you a way to put creatures from your library either into your hand or into play. As of now, it does not. So for me, that's why Domri's ability is superior to both his first and second. It's just a really good way of getting your creatures from your library onto the board. It really helps out. And then, same with the tested. Each creature you control gains Afflict, Berserker, and Trample. It's not the worst ability, because if you don't remember, Afflict goes whenever one of your creatures is blocked. If it has Afflict, it will deal the damage equal to its power to your opponent. So it can really stack up. And also, you can give Afflict basically twice to a creature as well through other means. So it's actually pretty cool ability, but it's so dependent on the creatures you have, where you are in the match, and you may or may not want to throw your creatures at your opponent in this way, unless they have prevent damage or something with Rem. But yeah, it's a pretty situational ability. Although I gave it the thumbs down, I don't think it's like the worst ability. It's just not really the one that you play Samut the Tested for these days, usually. But I don't know. People who use Samut, maybe you can shed some more light on why you play with her in the comments. And now, Loyalty Ability 3. If you control no creature cards, create 2 Phyrexian Beast tokens. Your creatures get +2/+2 until end of turn. Deal X damage to each opposing creature. An opposing Vanguard support loses X shield. X is equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. Create 2 Phyrexian Beast tokens that basically you're creating a token stack that will equal 6/6. Then they get +2/+2 until end of turn. So you're starting off with an 8/8 token stack. Wish they had haste, but oh well. And then you deal X damage to each opposing creature, and opposing Vanguard support loses X shield. So that can be a pretty decent board wipe depending on if they have creatures that can take damage or not. With, Ram and Faithbound Judge, that's going to basically negate any damage that they would otherwise take. So that kind of sucks. But an opposing Vanguard support losing X shield, that'd be cool if all opposing Vanguard supports lost that many shields. It'd be a great way to wipe out some of the scary Vanguards we just got into the game recently. So not a bad ability, and then equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. So this can be a pretty good board wipe sometimes, but I do wish it did a little bit more for you. I mean, it already does a decent amount for you, but I just wish it had a little bit more utility for you earlier in the game before you have a bunch of creatures on the battlefield. But it's a fairly small complaint about it. It can be good, but it's not as cool as I hope for it to be. But yeah, it's all right. Domries. Domries can win games, though, for you. It's a really cool ability, actually. Create a major hunting grounds token. At the end of each turn, reinforce your first creature. If you can't create a Gruul Beast token, your creatures with power 5 or more gain Berserker and Trample. So, basically, if you have a creature on the board, you're going to be reinforcing it every turn. So not just your turn, but your opponent's turn. So if you have a 5/5 creature in the first slot, it's going to go to 10/10. And then by the end of your opponent's turn, it will go to 15/15. So this can really grow a creature fast. Then even if you don't have a creature on the battlefield, the Gruul Beast token, I believe, might be 5/5. So just every turn it's going to grow and grow and grow. And as long as this token is on the battlefield, you'll just always have a creature around. So very cool ability. I think that I've definitely won some games because of it. And then Samut the Tested, create a support, 3 shields with when a creature you control deals damage to your opponent takes an extra 8 damage. A lot of people kind of dusted off Samut the Tested because when before Rem Carlos was nerfed, this ability basically caused infinite damage because Rem's ability to cause an extra 2 damage every time you do a non-combat related damage to your opponent, he triggers. And so it would just ping pong back and forth and do 8+2+8+2+8+2 until your opponent at any size was dead or the loop timer went off. So now that Rem has been nerfed in that way, that's no longer there for you. And so people aren't using Samut that much anymore. So my, I guess, wrap up for this part of the video will be Lukka's abilities are so focused on getting creatures from your hand onto the board that I wish that there was a way to get them from the library onto the board. I think that would be more useful for the average player. And in my testing of him, he's all right for, I think, newer players because he can do a lot to make creatures that are otherwise not that good a little bit stronger and very easy to put on the board with its first and second ability. So, with that said, we're not going to be testing him in lower tiers because I just don't have that afforded to me anymore. So I will show you the decks that I've created for him for Platinum in the current meta. Okay, so here's the first deck that I want to show you guys. So this is basically just get giant creatures on the battlefield and win fast with them. That's basically what we're going on here. Tyvar Jubilant Brawler, brand new Vanguard, gives our creatures haste, so we're going to be swinging right when we put them on the battlefield. Capricious Hellraiser is pretty cool because I can basically recast some of the well, recast some of the spells, but also sometimes if my other supports get popped, Glorious Sunrise, I could bring that back to the battlefield, but mainly it's there so that I can give Multani's Harmony and Helm of the Gods to my other creatures. And why do I have these? Well, because we're going all in on just buffing up our creatures, and target creature you control gains Leyline. If you don't remember what Leyline does, when you match 3 or more seed or green gems for the first time during your turn, this creature gets +X/+X until end of turn. X is the amount of green gems on the board. So a lot of times that can end up giving your creatures with Leyline a +10 or more buff on your creatures. And then Helm of the Gods is there to give first strike and +3/+3 to Zopandrel, who already doubles their power and toughness at the beginning of combat on every turn. So because it has reach, you want to stay alive longer, you give it Helm of the Gods. So, and then Colony Garden, Dryad Arbor, and Selvala are there to create tons of green matches for us and hopefully get our creatures and loyalty on the board fast. And then if you don't remember, Glorious Sunrise, at the beginning of your turn, convert 3 gems to green. That's the main reason. But also getting +1 and trample till end of turn, and then drawing a card is not bad either. So I'll show you how this deck works. Multani's Harmony, don't need that yet until I get Selvala on the board. Colony Garden. I'll get Multani's Harmony down first, actually. Let me see if that works for us. I wonder if this is going to be a heavy Toxin deck. Okay, so we got Leyline on there, but also let's see what we got. Okay, we'll save. So okay, we'll throw Helm of the Gods on Selvala, give him Berserker, and then just not use his gem conversion for now. Don't want that Tyrannax to continuously throw toxins on our board because he will win too fast. Okay, so we got an enhancing link token on the battlefield. And let's see. So we get another Capricious... So we'll get a Capricious Hellraiser and let's see. Cast a Leyline on it. So they're obviously playing a heavy toxic deck with Leyline. This is game. because we double Capricious Hellraiser, and bam, for the win. So, yeah, guys, don't sleep on Leyline, especially when you're using Zoppendrel, because so you guys are going to get some fat creatures to toss at your opponent that way. So that's basically how that deck works. So let's move on to my toxic deck now. Alright, so we got a fairly similar deck going on here. Few very key differences though. Still using Colony Garden and Dryad Arbor. Somberwald Sage instead for green gem conversion. We got Rite of Flame, Tyvar. We got Mox Emerald to get our creatures with huge mana costs on the board. We got Paladin of Predation, Tyrannax Rex. So the idea is with the Tyvar Jubilant Brawler Vanguard, we're going to give these hugely toxic creatures haste and get that toxic token up high right away. Alchemist Gambit, Double Strike. We're going to be doubling our toxic tokens there with Alchemist Gambit when we attack with our creatures, so that's going to be awesome. And Threats Undetected is very crucial for getting the creatures from our library to our hand, because one of my main gripes with Lukka is that none of his abilities help you with that. They only help when your creatures are already on the board or in your hand. So we need a way to mitigate that downside. So, all right, let's go for it. All right, so we get Colony Garden and a Paladin of Predation. Save that Alchemist Gambit for when we are able to attack with our Paladin. Maybe we can save up even loyalty to get to our second ability. And give our little elemental dude toxic as well. So that's one of the main reasons I wanted to try a toxic deck with Lukka. What do you do to us? Okay, that's fine. Give us advantage. Oh shoot. Well, I was hoping that the Sage would stay on the battlefield. But yeah, as I was saying, one of the reasons I wanted to try a toxic deck with this Lukka is because his second ability gives a creature toxic. So why not take advantage of one of the things that his kit will do for you? So we are at how many toxics at this point? We're at 7 or 8 really, because it's 1 token plus 7 reinforcements. So, let's see. I don't have Gambit coming Tyrannax coming down anytime soon. So let's just use the Gambit right now. Get another swap there. So was that? Well, we were already at 20. Okay, so yeah. See, that's how fast that Toxic can win if you build for it with Alchemist Gambit there. So yeah, we didn't even need our Tyrannax down. So yeah, that was 6 times 2 plus 2 times 2. So that was already 16 on top of the 8 that was already on the board. So this deck can win really fast. Might be a good training grounds deck, but sometimes it gets off to a little bit of a slow start. But I think it's a pretty decent deck there for what it's trying to accomplish. Nothing more, nothing less. That's kind of what his abilities end up doing for you. All right, so based on what I showed you here, how do you guys feel about him? For me personally, I think I would rank him about C tier. He's not bad, but he doesn't bring a lot of new to the table. His abilities just seem fairly limited in what they can really offer you. Like I said before, he might be an okay pickup for people who are still in like bronze and silver tier because his abilities do help with smaller creatures, getting buffing them up and getting them on the battlefield very easily. So if you want to try and build something around a lot of low cost creatures that can be upgraded with his kit here, that's one route to go. But yeah, I just don't feel like he brings a lot more to the table beyond that. Yeah, just let me know, guys, if you have differing opinions on this guy and also, yeah, what you guys think about the new Koth. If you guys have some deck builds that you want me to test for him when I do my review of him, I'm really looking forward to really diving into him now that I'm done with this review of Lukka, which, yeah, I don't know. I guess for me, my main gripe with him is that I just find him a little bit boring. We're here to have fun with this game, guys. So having a boring walker means that he's just not going to be used by me at all. So that's not what I want to play this game for, is to make it a chore for myself. So yeah, he's probably not going to be a guy I use very often at all. But he could be one of those guys that I relegate to legacy. His mana gains are great, but yeah, you can do anything with any walker in Legacy and be fine with it. So he might end up being like a PvE slot for me. Build a few PvE decks to use in case I need to blast through an event and don't feel like rebuilding a deck. I could just have it saved in him for when I need it. So that's what I end up doing with these planeswalkers that aren't bad, but aren't good enough to make it into a regular rotation. All right, guys. So yeah, there we go. Look forward to showing you how Koth is. Remember to go register for our Discord, which I'm going to link in the comments here. And yeah, we're doing kind of a really fun thing. Me and a couple other guys are doing Trial of the Plains speed runs and recording those and posting them for bragging rights. So if you feel like you got what it takes to beat some of the fastest times on there, come join us and check it out. All right, guys, till the next video. See you next time.